Hello beautiful people, welcome to the channel. The Witchy Goth here, hope you're doing well. Today's video, all about feminism and how females have more than enough rights. Well, as you know, I disagree with this. Now, I picked this up from a cut video that was taken from Ben Kentish, who's a talk show host on LBC. I'm going to link that into the description box below so you can go and have a listen. Now, this is where the problem comes in, is that I don't have the technology to be able to link the video in my video so that I can play it for you. So I'm using my old phone and pointing the volume at my microphone, so hopefully you'll be able to hear. And I'm going to comment on some of the things that are said here. I'm actually going to probably cut it off halfway through because it is an 18-minute call. Anyway, let's have a listen to this. Females have more than enough rights. I'm sure you know what I think about this.
Example, a poll for Channel 4 today asked male respondents aged between 13 and 17 their views on basically feminism. Their views on the women's rights campaigns, their views on the fight for gender equality. 45%, almost half, of those young men that took part in this survey expressed the view, wait for this, expressed the view that we have gone, this is directly quoting what they were asked about, we have gone so far in promoting women's equality that we are now discriminating against men. A similar proportion, almost half, said that when it comes to giving women equal rights, things have gone far enough. In other words, they don't just think that feminism and the campaign for equal rights has achieved its aims, they think it's actively gone too far. That it is now men that are in need of solidarity. It is now men that are the disadvantaged, discriminated against members of society, according to almost half of 13 to 27-year-old boys and men. Now, I'll be completely honest. I think that is nonsense.
I agree.
I think that is just completely and demonstrably false.
Absolutely, yes.
When men are the ones that are overwhelmingly likely to be the victims of domestic abuse, when sexual violence is being perpetrated against men on the scale that it still is against women, when there is a gender pay gap that sees women paid more than men for doing exactly the same jobs across the board, when politicians and judges and journalists and business leaders and FTSE 100 executives are overwhelmingly women rather than men, that is the point, and only then, that is the point that I will say, yes, perhaps feminism has gone too far, that it is now men that are being prejudiced and discriminated against. And we are, clearly, a long way from that point. So, how do we explain the fact that almost half of young men seem to disagree? How do we explain the fact that almost half of young men think it's not their sisters and mothers and daughters and wives and girlfriends that are being discriminated against, it is them? Why are they so convinced that it is now, Britain is now a country, a society, that is not misogynistic, but is misandrist, where men are the ones that are the victims of prejudice, harassment, perhaps discrimination? In other words, why are young men turning against women's rights and seem to be more and more convinced that it is they that need a campaign to protect their status and their rights? I have some suspicions about this.
You really think you can get me to like dark chocolate?
Without a doubt.
Sorry.
When it tastes bitter?
Not this dark chocolate.
This is the problem with not having technology that is advanced enough. I just can't afford it. So while this is going on, if you do enjoy the video, please click the like button and subscribe to the channel if you can. Also share the video.
I think there's three explanations for me. The first says they're just bitter and angry, that feminism has taken opportunities away from them as it's rebalanced the scales and leveled the playing field, and they just don't like it. They are seeing jobs that they thought in recent history they would have got, and opportunities that they thought were theirs instead going to women, And it is a backlash against that. That it's basically the losers in the campaign for equality suffering and feeling bitter and resentful at the fact that they are not getting the automatic privileges and advantages that they once would have got. That's one explanation. Perhaps there's a bit of that going on. The second is this is about online misogynistic influencers like Andrew Tate. I
agree with that. I'm going to press play again in a minute, but I completely agree that it is people like Andrew Tate, and there are quite a few other online male influencers as well who are outright misogynists and who promote misogyny. Misogyny is the hatred of women, and misandry is the hatred of men. But as you know, I've done videos on Andrew Tate, which I will link into the description box below. The man is despicable. And because we live in a society now where we spend the majority of our time online, we can't ignore these kind of influences. And people, especially young men sitting alone at home on their computers and so on, will see this and will think, this is why I'm not getting a job. So let's go back to the radio show.
I think that's part of it. I think people like Andrew Tate seize on this and exploit it and perpetuate it and fuel it. But I think they are a symptom more than they are a cause. In other words, the likes of Andrew Tate would not have the sort of support they have for their women-hating, toxic masculinity rantings if there wasn't something going on in the first place. If young men weren't prone to feeling sceptical and worse, suspicious perhaps, about feminism. That is the sort of basis I think that Andrew Tate and others exploit. The third thing is quite contentious, and some of you might not like it, but I think it's true nonetheless. I do think that too often, at times, those that are part of the sort of the feminist agenda, of which I would include myself, use rhetoric and language that is demonizing to men. When men feel that they are being portrayed as all aggressive, violent, potential criminals, that does not spark support, it does not spark solidarity, it inevitably sparks hostility and a backlash. Because I hazard a guess that a lot of those young men feel that feminism and feminists see them as nothing more than sort of useless, worthless, lazy, irrelevant, potential violent attackers. Not saying that's true, but I think that's how they feel. That is how they feel they are depicted increasingly by the sort of conversation we have. And in that context, I understand why some of them might be getting fed up and angry about that. There's different elements to this. It's absolutely, I think, pretty critical that we get to the bottom of the question of why young men are turning against women's rights. If we accept, and you may not, but I do, that the campaign for women's rights is still absolutely vital and necessary. Why do so many...
It is vital and necessary because there are still women around the world that are suffering FGM. There are still women that are being trafficked for sexual reasons. Girls, women, grooming gangs. We can talk about all of those things, and I am going to be bringing that up in future videos. But men that are angry with women are proving the reasons why we choose the bear. Let's go back to the narrative.
Young men increasingly seem to think the opposite. Why do they seem to think it's gone too far?
And there we have another advert. I'm sorry, I can't help this because I don't have the ability to edit, so you just have to put up with this.
Hi there, good evening.
Talk to me about this, because Adele, I'll be honest with you, I am baffled at how anyone, frankly, man or woman, can think that it is men in Britain that are discriminated against rather than women.
See, I don't find it hard working with lots of young people, and obviously I'm not young anymore. I'm 36, but being a young man growing up with the feminist movement, I can fully understand it. To be honest, I've got a daughter, I've got a mother, I've got obviously lots of female relatives that I absolutely adore. But what's gone on right now, in my opinion, is we've gone way too far. This feminist movement has gone. For me, it's pulled us to one place where we're at the moment, where everybody's confused. Nobody knows their roles, and it's not about equal pay and stuff like that. I'm all in agreement about equal pay, equal rights, and equal stuff like that. But we do not need it pushed in front of our face all the time that feminists need rights, females need this, females need that. Because
females. Doesn't say women, he says females. And this is how a lot of men view women, as females. We're not women, we're females.
In my opinion and my actual understanding from being brought up in this country in particular, females actually have more than enough rights. If not, we've gone past it to the point where they have more rights than a lot of men in this country.
Give me an example. Give me an example of a right that a woman has that you think a man doesn't.
Okay, for example, my children, I've got 2 children. I had to fight tooth and nail for my children. My education, my educational history, my upbringing, everything, in my opinion, is superior to the females. Yeah, I had to fight because she has all the rights.
When you said the females, you mean the mother of your children?
The mother of my children. To the point where I still struggle to this day to see my children. I am more responsible than the woman. I can tell you this absolutely factually. I have a better job than the woman. Well, she doesn't work, in fact.
Can we call her the mother in this country? Is that all right?
The mother of my child. Sorry, yeah.
That's all right.
She doesn't need to work because of...
Okay. The courts, when the rights are given, generally choose the mother. Don't forget, the mother is the one who carried the children inside of her body for 9 months. Now, we don't know why they've broken up, and we don't know why he doesn't see them very often. We can speculate about that. I'm not going to do that here. But he says that he earns more money than she does, and she doesn't work. So if he earns more money than she does, that means that he's at work a lot. So who would look after the children while he's at work? She doesn't work because she claims benefits for the kids, which is right. I don't know why she's not working. Possibly the children are too young. And the cost of childcare far outweighs getting a job in this country. So perhaps that's why the court gave her or awarded her the children.
Obviously, the benefit system pays her as much as she wants. They pay for a house, which is bigger than my house.
So I think what you're saying is that the family court system is one area in which maybe women get prioritised. Fair point. It may well be. There is evidence that bears that out, that generally mums tend to sort of get custody in these disputes and so on.
And where this country is going wrong is parenting. And the parenting is confused right now because females are trying to be more manly and...
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? When you say we're female,
it's controlling, it's power. And when I say power, I don't believe a man should have power over a woman. By the way, because I speak to people, and a lot of people think I'm controversial, and I'm not controversial. I'm just quite old school, and I believe in old school things. When I see, for example, old relationships,
old school. So we're coming back to the 1950s, when women stayed at home and men went to work. But now they've split up. We don't know if they were married. We don't know if they're divorced. We don't know if they were just boyfriend and girlfriend or partners. We don't know that. We don't have the full context of this story. But he clearly wants to go back to the 1950s where he was working and the wife stayed at home and looked after the children and cleaned the house and so on and so on. Women were not happy in those times. Why do you think women were taking Valium and miserable and unhappy? And then he's still calling them females. This shows the misogyny that he has.
and I see my grandparents, I see a perfect relationship. And in that relationship, we have an understanding where the mother understood what the man's role was, and it worked amazingly. And they had problems, like any relationship had. But actually, it worked amazingly.
What, a world in which women weren't able to pursue their dreams or have any sort of career? It worked amazingly. It worked amazingly for who?
Not that. At the end of the day, a woman has to hold a child for 9 months. So if a woman's going to have 3 children, 4 children, they lose 3 years anyway, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
But I'm
8,
not talking
9,
about that, Dan. You're talking...
They use 3, 4, 5 years anyway. Do you see that? He could quite easily stay at home and be the house husband while she goes out to work. But no, it's the woman's job.
About an era
I'm
talking about an era in which it was absolutely expected that a woman would stay at home, do the housework, cook for her husband, and raise the kids.
Absolutely expected, but that should be a woman's core fundamental thing. That shouldn't be a man's core fundamental thing.
A woman's core fundamental thing. This caller makes me so angry. I just want to reach through the phone. Why? Why can't women have a job? Why can't... And I want to remind you guys as well that women could not buy a house until the 70s. Women couldn't have their own credit card until the 70s. So women had no choice but to either stay at home with their parents or get married.
What do you mean, why? They are the bearers of children. They are the mothers of our children. Let me explain.
Right, so because they carry them for 9 months, they should do the job for the next 20 years?
No, not because they carried them for 9 months. Because
what you're telling
me, it is a female's responsibility. Females are more compassionate people, human beings.
Really?
Nowadays, maybe not. Yes, they should. They should be they should be. Maybe they're not nowadays. Maybe we've gone so far with this feminist movement that females have become so disengaged that they're not. I don't know, but I'm going to...
He said, I don't know there. So females, again, he keeps using that term. He doesn't say women, he says females. So obviously he takes his mother and his daughters and his grandmother out of that equation and just sees his ex-partner being a female. And he says that they're more controlling. No, we're not more controlling. We want equality.
Bring you another example. My mother, for example, she had way too much power, and I'm telling you this factually again, to the point where she discarded men left, right, centre. And when she discarded men, what happens is you got broken down families to the point where I suffered.
And you don't think that...
Why did she discard the men? What was the reasoning behind that? Possibly those men weren't what she expected them to be. Perhaps they were in some way abusing her.
Did a lot of men discard women, left, right and centre?
Maybe it does, but the female can have the children. The female can have the child, breed have the children, get the property, and then discard the man.
All right, Dan, I'm going to pause you there because Harry's...
And breed. Can you hear this man's thoughts about women? We are breeding machines. That's it. To this man, we are breeding machines.
The line from Richmond, and I think he's going to offer us a slightly different perspective. I'll let you come back in a moment. Now, Harry, hi.
Hi, Tom. How are you tonight?
It's Ben, but I'm fine, thank you, sir. How are you?
Sorry, Ben. Don't know why that's slipped out wrong.
You're not the first. Harry, fire away. Talk to me about men who think that women's rights have gone too far.
So I'm going to be as plain as I can. In my opinion, this kind of issue is rooted in two things. One, men that are not comfortable with who they are, and they are not comfortable with dealing with the realities of who they are and where their place is in society. So it's a largely mental health issue. And two, I think misogyny never left. Misogyny as we knew it and the growth of the feminist movement, it just caused misogyny to be quieter, and it was behind closed doors. It was still being taught to the youth, and it was still ever present in our children, except we just didn't know about it because it was being done very quietly,
right,
because we felt shame. And again, it's that mental health, it's that safety in ourselves.
Harry, what did you make of what Dale was just saying, that actually women have too many rights in this country, he thinks?
So I'm so grateful that someone has called in on the other side for me. This is my kind of what I'm referring to. It's that knowing who you are in society. So Dale, it seems to me, and I do apologize because it does seem that Dale has gone through some stuff. Dale has gone through something very contextual, very close to himself, that has distorted his image of how he perceives women. And I completely understand, because fighting the judicial system can be quite demeaning as a man. It is not to suggest that it is wrong, but it is demeaning. There is no inherent wrongness to it.
Okay.
Now, this judicial system has been in place for thousands of years, and for a long time, for a very, very long time, it was against women.
Okay, Harry, let me pause you there. Let's.
Okay, I'm going to link the rest of this below. But I think Harry has got the right... Well, he's picked on some things here that are really relevant. This guy, I think his name was Dan, the first caller, he clearly has gone through a difficult time with his mother having various partners and him breaking up with his partner. So there's a lot of psychological issues there as well. I'm hoping that I'll get some percentages up here, to show you of how men are affected by these things and women are affected by these things. And it does affect, it's nature versus nurture. However a child is brought up, they're going to react in some way to that in their later adult life. However, this person's thoughts on women are just shocking. Let's go back to the call. Let's see what Dan has to say to Harry.
Let's put that back to Dale. Dale, Harry's basically saying that because of your personal experience, that has sort of turned you against all women, I think.
Tap into Etsy for custom shelving under £40.
Sorry, another advert. We'll skip it in a minute. Sorry. If you want to help me with the channel, it would be great if you could share it and help me get my subscribers up so that I can then hopefully start to afford to buy the technology I need to do these videos in a way more professional manner. Right, let's go back to this caller.
That is not actually how it is. It's something that it's something within my heart and how I feel, and it's actually how I've been brought up in regards to lots of men around me and what they've taught me, and lots of females, good females. And when I see a female, I see a good female, and I see a female that doesn't do their duty. Maybe I am sexist.
What's their duty?
I misogynistic. I don't believe so. I really do not believe so. Hand on my heart, I do not believe so.
But what is a woman's duty, Dale?
For example, once a woman has had a child, her duty then does become the child, the children, the bringing up, the family house. It's solely when I see a good family and a good household, most of the time the woman has an important role, and that is what I cherish women. By the way, I really love.
You cherish them as long as they're at home raising the kids.
No, not just. They can.
Do you cherish them when they're running companies and leaving their husband to do the childcare?
No, not at all.
So you don't cherish them. Dale, let's bring Harry back in. Harry.
I'm sorry, Dale, but you're using quite... I don't know if it's conscious or not, but you are using quite weaponizing language. You're not referring to these people as people. You're calling them females. You're calling them women. You're not calling them the mother, because you refer to them as people giving birth to children, but you're not regularly referring to them as such. And again, women can have the choice whether they want to continue to be stay-at-home mothers or mothering in that capacity. My wife and I have a perfectly healthy relationship in fact where she's a stay-at-home mother. And I have said to her to this day, should she choose to work, please, by all means, take me out of work and go and earn some money, because it's about that independence. It's that right, because she has the right to make a decision, including me.
Okay. Dale?
No. I'm actually in agreement now. I'm not going to disagree with anything he just said. I believe women have rights. women should be able to do whatever they want. But where I struggle is when women make a choice to have a family or have children, because what he just said there is he's got a wife who stays at home with the children, with the children, and it works amazingly.
But he's also saying that he would be. But Dale, he's also saying, Harry, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're also saying you would be completely happy if that was the other way around. Harry has said to his wife, if she wants to go back to work, he'll stay at home and look after the kids. I don't have any problem with that, but you seem to.
I've actually not got a complete problem with that, not an absolute problem with that, but my problem is the duties and the context when it comes to a relationship. And that's where, for me, it becomes very, very difficult, because when you have a relationship and two people to come together, there has to be roles. And in my opinion, there is no roles anymore. It's just we are both the same. A man and a female are the same. A man and a female have never been the same.
All right, Harry.
A man and a female.
So he wants roles. He wants a cleaner. He wants a mother to his children. And I would suspect that he, wants all the housework to be done by the woman so that he can spend his time going out with his mates, playing games, all sort of other things that men like to do. I'm not saying all men, because obviously Harry has hit the nail on the head there. He's very understanding and sort of knows that, we have these roles can be reversed. Why should we stay in these roles that we were told as children? Girls play with dolls, boys play football. Why? Why can't a boy play with a doll and a girl go and play football? What's wrong with that? Again, it comes down to the fact that parents have these strict gender roles. And why?
Well, I've never been.
Okay, let Harry come back, Dale.
Sorry, Dale, that's very contextual. That's very much something that is personal to yourself. That is something that you want for your relationships and for your things. The topic that we're kind of discussing is largely more about society. It's not necessarily about our personal views, because my personal view is absolutely irrelevant to the one that we're trying to cover, in the fact of that there are young men who are actually believing that women are somehow overpowering men. Like, can we please, for a second, slow the conversation down and understand that there is an active institutional oppression to women. Now, we can go in through the many avenues. We can talk about the fact that domestic violence, we can talk about education, we can talk about the job sector. There is largely institutional oppression of women. And it is intersectional. Sorry.
I'd agree with you. I'd agree with that there is in this society still largely oppression of women. Dale, would you accept that?
I wouldn't accept that, to be honest. No, I don't believe in this society, in this modern day. I think this is probably the least oppressive generation ever in history of histories. I believe that women aren't oppressed anymore. I believe that, like any generation, there's going to be things like that we don't like as human beings. Like people will commit murder.
Would you not say,
people will
Dale,
commit awful acts on females? But that doesn't mean that people aren't committing awful acts on men. But you know what happens when someone commits an awful act on men? Most time, men do not even talk about it. So, for example, we talk about domestic abuse, stuff like that. Do you know how much domestic abuse is done to men? People say, "Oh, it does." It's
still overwhelmingly. It's still overwhelmingly against women. Dale, you're right. Of course, men can be the victims of domestic abuse. Overwhelmingly, the victims of domestic violence are women, which I think was Harry's point. One of many examples as to why we still have a country where women are the more oppressed gender, the more oppressed sex.
Yeah, I've got a feeling that Dale was perhaps involved in some sort of abusive relationship, and he is basing his views on that. He talks about abuse against men. Yes, it does happen. But as Ben Kentish said there, the figures far outweigh that here. Look, here's some figures right here. Women are by far the ones who suffer from SA, SV, DV, the whole lot. If you watch this channel, you'll know this. There are videos that I've done with those statistics in. 1 in 4 women, I come back to this all the time, have experienced rape. 1 in 4 women, and I can't remember the figures for men off the top of my head, but I'm going to put them here. And he says that men don't talk about it. That's men's problems. That's why. Because the patriarchy has told them that they can't talk about these things, that they have to hold these things in, that it's just not spoken about. Well, that's not true. A man can embrace those more feminine traits in themselves, just like women can embrace the more masculine traits in themselves. We know that the vast majority of SA, SV, DV are committed against women. And he is trying to spin this and saying that, well, it's not fair in court. It's not fair on men. It's not fair on women. And until this violence against women stops, we will never have equal rights. So to Dale, I give you that. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button. Please subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you thought of this whole format, if you think that it's worth me carrying on with. I hope to see you next time. Under his eye.